Tennessee Titans and Robert Saleh. That's the latest head coach team pairing, and it's a good one.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are Locked On NFL. Welcome into the show. I am not the madman, Tyler Rowland. I'm Kevin Ostreicher filling in for the madman here today on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the number one sports podcast network. Appreciate everybody for being here, making Locked On NFL a part of your day. And thanks so much to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. 5 days a week plus more of daily NFL content. We got you covered 2 times a day with Tyler in the mornings on this show, as well as Tony Wiggins, the barber shop in the afternoon. Jam-packed episode today as Robert Saleh officially the Tennessee Titan newest head coach. We'll talk about that fit. We'll also dive into some Mike McDaniel updates, as well as Brian Flores watches. There seems to be a new opportunity that a lot of people are talking about with Brian Flores. And who better to talk about Brian Flores than Luke Braun, the host of Locked On Vikings. And Luke, we'll get to Brian Flores a little bit later in the show, but we're starting to see these head coaching opportunities come off the board. Jeff Hafley goes to Miami, and the latest, Robert Saleh to Tennessee. I said in that intro, I said, hey, this is a good pairing. How do you view the pairing? Is it good for you, or do you feel like they should have gone elsewhere?
Yeah, it feels a little bit like they're trying to make up for the mistake that they made letting Vrabel out of the building. That was a bad call. And at the time, I get it. It felt like it was time to move on. You can hear Tyler talk all about it. I get to talk about the Titans about Tyler here. But at the time, I get why the perception was the way it was, but they cratered. Vrabel has gone on to find great success with the Patriots. We move on. Saleh has a lot of the same ideas that, like, a lot of the same positives that you wanted from Vrabel. He is going to have that team playing hard for him. He is going to have a culture that you can at least hang your hat on. Players are going to be in like on his side. There is the defensive minded thing, but I'm not even really talking about that. He is an innovative defensive mind. And the problem that I heard Tyler on Locked On Titans talk about a lot was like the whole, you can't keep an offensive coordinator in the building thing. You cover the Ravens, you know that well. When, there's a guy running the offense, somebody wants him to be their head coach if he's good, and he gets fired if he's bad, and you kind of have to have a mediocre offense just to keep the guy around. But I think that is a worthy cost rather than going with, the latest 22-year-old college grad that sniffed McVay's coffee once, which felt a little bit like that was the vibe they were trying to do before with Callahan. There was not enough experience, and that's not what the Titans need right now. The Titans have a young quarterback and nothing else around him. They need somebody that will build whatever they build from the ground up, whatever they draft, whatever kind of team they want to make. They need somebody that is going to get all those players together and on the same page to rally around him. I think Saleh does that. I think if they still had Vrabel in the building, they would have that. And now whatever you missed with Vrabel, you can kind of have another chance at. Plus, I think Saleh got a terribly raw deal in New York.
Yeah, and hold on. We can't speak about future NFL head coach Nathan Shieldhouse like that, who has sniffed Sean McVay's coffee once and is the young, hot college grad. All right, he'll be stumped, though. He's a Ravens candidate, too. So
yeah, sure.
I agree with you.
I think Ross Jackson had about as much to do with Sean McVay because he interviewed him at a Super Bowl once.
Future head coach Ross Jackson, just we'll keep
lining.
We'll just keep lining up the opportunities. So Tyler's fired up about this. He talked about some of the rumors and reports that are swirling around right now about just how this got done, because some reports were saying this was going to be Matt Nagy, but it ended up being Robert Saleh.
There's a lot swirling around out there about whether Amy Adams Strunk forced Mike Borgonzi to hire Robert Saleh over Matt Nagy. But guess what my take is on that? Good. Nobody wanted Matt Nagy in the NFL, Titans fan base. The Kansas City Chiefs didn't even want Matt Nagy back. So if Amy Adams Strunk overruled the general manager to get the right guy, then good. It's her franchise. I would support that. Again, no one wanted Matt Nagy, and the Tennessee Titans have got themselves in trouble in the past with buddy hires. So avoiding that and going with a guy who's a much better leader and a much better scheme guy on one side of the ball, how can I fault the Tennessee Titans owner for that? And everybody who wants to take shots at Amy Adams Strunk, how can you be angry with her if she did say, hey, we can't hire your best friend. We need to hire the best coach possible. Now, I'll say this. After the initial reporting in an Adam Schefter article that Mike Borgonzi wanted Matt Nagy, but ownership pushed them to Robert Saleh, that's been debunked by multiple sources. That was taken out of that article. Teron Davenport from ESPN clarified that wasn't the case. Paul Kaharski reported that that was false and not the case. So, it doesn't appear that that is actually true. But quite frankly, even if it were true, good.
So I think we can all tell how fired up Tyler is, that it is not. Honestly, I think it's more fired
normal
up.
for him, actually.
I know.
It's like a 4 out of 10 for Tyler.
Yeah, he can take it up a couple notches. We all know that. But I think he's honestly more excited about the fact that Matt Nagy is not the hire over the fact that Robert Saleh is. At least I feel like that might be what's going on here. I think they definitely avoided disaster. I think Saleh brings them a lot more than what Matt Nagy could. And again, like, the Chiefs moved on pretty quickly, bringing back Eric Bieniemy. So I think that kind of tells you what Matt Nagy's, stock in the league is right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where Matt Nagy's future in the league lies. But yeah, I would say if Andy Reid was saying no thanks to him, then that's probably it for that. I don't know. Maybe he'll have a good time in the spring league or something.
I don't know what it holds. Maybe it's the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I know Raiders fans will not like that. That would be something, especially with that number 1 overall pick, which a lot of people are assuming is going to be Fernando Mendoza, Indiana quarterback, national champion, actually, Fernando Mendoza, and Kurt Signetti in that Indiana squad, those Hoosiers winning the championship over Miami. And your boy Q over at Locked On Raiders, he talked about Fernando Mendoza and him checking off that last box to officially become a part of the NFL in just a couple months ago.
But I thought he did a good job in a very tough game. Again, it wasn't something that just wowed everybody. It made everyone think that he's the next greatest thing since sliced bread, but the dude could play ball, and he could play the quarterback position. I believe the Raiders found their guy. I believe he checked the final box if they needed that final box checked. I think his toughness, his grittiness, the way he got into the end zone on that 4th and 5 play, I think that just really kind of told you and embodied who Fernando Mendoza is.
How intriguing is it for you, Luke, an offensive Fernando Mendoza, Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, and I hope they're going to sign some wide receivers this offseason or make a play there?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's there's some pieces of something, but the Raiders need a full scale, long term, be quiet for 2 or 3 years, and then they'll suddenly put it all together kind of thing. And whoever takes that job, like Mark Davis, needs to understand that whoever is taking that job needs the leash for that team to still be really undermanned for a little while. That's going to be a rough place for Mendoza to develop. I like Mendoza for what I know of him, which is admittedly little right now. I haven't done too much draft work, but based on the little that I've seen of him, he looks like a Sunday dude, but a Sunday dude in college is still going to take some time. You're still going to need, Drake May still needed a year. Caleb Williams needed a year before he started doing what he was doing. Like, it takes a little bit, and it's going to similarly take a little bit for the Raiders because they don't have that talent on the outside. And that defense was better than you think this year, but that might be because of Patrick Graham, who's probably leaving to be somewhere else. The Raiders org is such a desolate wasteland right now. I don't know if Max Crosby's still going to be in the building by the time they're relevant. I like Mendoza. I like it for them, but I am so willing to just kind of cover my eyes for 2 years and not evaluate anything until then.
Yeah, and he was taking a lot of hits behind that Indiana O-line, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's the Raiders, so he'll fit in right. He'll fit in,
right in." There you go.
It's a test run. I mean, you're right. There are so many different. You have a couple of really nice pieces that he can work with, but you got to fix your O-line. You got to get some more wideouts in there.
Yeah.
You mentioned defensively.
I just don't need to write the book on him until 2028, and I'm fine with that. And I think Raiders fans should be fine with that too. This is where you are. You have the number 1 overall pick and a bad team, but if Mendoza is that guy, he becomes that guy on year 3, and then suddenly you're making runs at the AFC West and you're giving the Chiefs everything they can handle in there, and you've come out from it. What I don't want to hear anything about this dude week 6 next year, because he threw one too many interceptions. Like, that's going to happen. It's written in the stars.
Yep. I expect him to have flashes, but I don't expect this Raiders team to win more than 5-6 games. Like, it's going to be a work in progress. So patience is key there, but luckily the Raiders have, I think, a couple of years to exercise that patience. And after a couple of years, they could probably turn into a pretty good team. But coming up in the second part of the show, we'll talk about teams that are looking at Mike McDaniel or are no longer looking at Mike McDaniel because of Mike McDaniel. So be sure to stay tuned. We're right back here on Locked On NFL. First, this show is brought to you by DripDrop. Kicking off the year feeling good is the goal, right? And honestly, hydration is the easiest win. When I stay on top of it, my energy, focus, and mood all level up. But let's be real, plain water doesn't always cut it, especially when you're grinding through long days, hitting the gym, or just trying to stay consistent with your health goals. That's where DripDrop comes in. Doctor developed proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work better. Think clearer focus, better energy, elevated mood, even that fresh skin glow. Now, I've been using DripDrop as a part of my daily routine, and it's honestly a game changer, not just for workouts, but every single day. And I love that it uses a precise ratio of electrolytes and glucose for rapid absorption, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading sports drinks. And it tastes amazing. I'm obsessed with the lemon flavor, and there are 16 original flavors and 8 zero sugar options to choose from. Right now, DripDrop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to DripDrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's DripDrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 20% off. Stock up now at DripDrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission, merchant, and swap firm. Moving along, Locked On NFL. Kevin Ostreicher still here with Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings. I'm filling in for the madman. We're giving you that double shot of espresso, although Tyler gives you like 10 billion shots of espresso here. So I'm trying to live up to what he brings to this show. We have 2 shows daily for you here on Locked On NFL. Obviously in the morning with Tyler, the madman, and then you have the barbershop in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins. So thanks so much for being here. Also, if you want some extra content, Every Dayer Club, it is live across the entire network. So for your team, you can check it out. Link is on the Locked On website. You can go and find your team and get a ton of awesome perks with that. But of course, we're free and available here on Locked On NFL across the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Luke, the Chargers are an intriguing spot for me, and a lot of people are talking about Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel's the hottest head coaching candidate, it feels like, right now on the market. There are a couple that you could probably put in that conversation, but Mike McDaniel, both for some head coaching opportunities, but feels like the steam is beginning to get picked up in the offensive coordinator category where there are multiple teams that could use him. Detroit passed him over to get Drew Petzing, but Chargers, Tampa, maybe Baltimore. He's in the Baltimore head coaching search as well as Las Vegas. What's your feel on Mike McDaniel right now? And is he getting overhyped, underhyped, or is it just right for you?
I think it's right for him as an offensive coordinator for a coach that isn't a defensive mind. I don't want this guy to be the leader of a unit. And I think we kind of found that in Miami. I hate to speculate that hard on that kind of thing, but the like scheme lord, when the rubber met the road, it didn't stay together. That you can only remove the ping pong tables so many times before all these little tricks start to feel stale. And they never really managed to like beat their allegations of the kind of team they wanted to be. And what's weird about that is that's not who McDaniel's always wanted to be. He was in Houston. He was a run game guy. Like a lot of the run game stuff that has taken over the league came out of his brain in Washington and got, perfected and adopted and morphed in Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay's offenses. But that was incepted in Mike McDaniel's brain. And a lot of the playbook art that these teams use originally written in Houston by Mike McDaniel. He's a run game guy to me. And so the lack of run game that Miami had on and off throughout his time there was always really surprising to me. But I think if you take the Miami out of the man and you take the responsibility of, leading the unit, the hype up speeches and stuff, that's never been who he is. Lock that man in a cubicle with one overhead fluorescent light, Keurig, and, enough coffee to last him through the night and as many 5-hour energies as he wants, and let that dude cook. And I think that is a perfect match with Jim Harbaugh. I love it for the Raiders for that reason, because Jim Harbaugh wants to run the ball. He always has, whether it was San Francisco, Michigan, or elsewhere. He's always wanted to run the ball, even at Stanford with Andrew Luck. And so let's get a nice creative run game, give it to Jim Harbaugh, and he won't be able to help himself. And I think this will be a match made in heaven. And then Harbaugh can do all of the, milk and steak, crazy hype up, rah-rah speech crap he wants. And Mike McDaniel can quietly sit in the booth and go start designing the next week's plays. I think it's a perfect match between those two. I would love to see it.
Man, that Chargers job is really intriguing at the offensive coordinator spot. So David Drogemeyer and Daniel Wade over at Locked On Chargers, they talked about the Chargers and what that opening is and why it is so intriguing.
The Chargers are a great place to be able to take that chance to be able to go with a great quarterback, with a bunch of young weapons, with a ton of cap space to be able to fix an offensive line. You go out there and orchestrate that offense and you look fantastic and you go win a playoff game or two, then you're going to be looking fantastic and you're going to be looking like the guy that they want to lead their next franchise. So it is a fantastic place to be able to do that. The Chargers have everything that a prospective offensive coordinator who wants to parlay that into a head coaching job could possibly want.
Do you think that's the path? Like, would you be all right if he, I guess, redeemed himself in, let's say, Los Angeles for a year? Or do you just think that he's just lifetime better as a coordinator like Josh McDaniels or one of those guys who, great offensive mind, great offensive coordinator, but when push comes to shove, even a successful next stint wouldn't put you over the hump for him to be a head coach again?
Right now, I see him as a coordinator, and I don't think that there's any shame in that. You can be Josh McDaniels and just say, you know what? When I'm in charge of the whole thing, there's certain skills that requires that I don't have. But if you want to lock me in a room and make me come up with a cool offense for you, I can do that. And that is there is honor in that in the league, and just being a cog in that machine, but not having to be the God Emperor head honcho. And I think that it's such a perfect match with Harbaugh that I'd want to see that. But McDaniel's still very young. And guess what? We learn things as we get older. So I don't know who this guy's going to be in 5 years. Maybe he'll be a coordinator for a little while, get another shot and do great. But what I guess I'll say is it means that over that time, he needs to change. He needs to look at what Jim Harbaugh does and adopt some of those skills. He needs to siphon that skill set of getting players to be able to rally around you, getting players to buy in during a losing streak, which I think Jim Harbaugh can do, and Mike McDaniel never could. That's the people management part of the business that everybody's got their own style for, and some people like Harbaugh are maniacs. Some people like Harbaugh's brother are less like that, and took a different approach for almost a 2-decade stint, or the Tomlins of the world that managed to find everybody an even keel. Whatever your style needs to be, it's all valid, but you have to be able to stop there from being like locker room toxicity for 3 years. And I really think that's what got McDaniel canned more than missing the playoffs or not ever winning a playoff game or any of that stuff, because that offense was still well respected, even though it was never all that good. It was still well respected based off of basically one really good game against the Broncos in 2022. But they never went anywhere because they never played as a team, and you got to figure that out. So if McDaniel can figure out how to do that, if he can learn from Jim Harbaugh how to do that, great. Good job. Then you can have that opportunity again. But I don't think I need that from him to like respect his career. Like we don't all need to be able to do everything. Not everybody on set needs to dream of being a director someday. Some people should be okay, being a cog in that machine and doing the thing that they're really good at and being one of the best in the world at what they're good at.
Hold on. After all that, Jim Harbaugh has a brother. Maybe the Ravens should hire that guy. I don't, maybe that. And actually, I remember Jim's hire at the offensive coordinator position, who just got fired, and Greg Roman. I'm having flashbacks to the Ravens offense before they fired Greg Roman. I think if they hire McDaniel, it would be a massive upgrade over Greg Roman. So, what the Harbaugh family are always going to have a job. John did that in Baltimore, and obviously I know that covering the Ravens, and Jim the same thing in Los Angeles. But I think McDaniel would be a really nice option there as an offensive coordinator, but we know that McDaniel is not going to be an option as the head coach in Cleveland, as he withdrew himself from that search, maybe to take the Chargers job. Who knows? We'll see how that unfolds. So the Browns are going to have to move on to someone else, and there just happens to be a pretty big name head coach that was just fired by the Buffalo Bills, and Sean McDermott. And Spencer German, the Locked On Browns, he makes the case as to why the Browns should make a play at Sean McDermott.
Yes. If I'm the Browns, I am interviewing Sean McDermott. Add his name to the list. I know that they have 6 guys that they're trying to get in for in-person interviews starting this week. We know who the names are. Sean McDermott needs to be number 7 now that he's available. The Browns have shown interest in him in the past. During the 2016 hiring cycle, when they obviously chose Hugh Jackson, wrong choice, they interviewed Sean McDermott, and then he got the Buffalo job, and he's had a lot of success there. I think now in this cycle, McDermott is one of the white whales of the group. I understand and I accept the fact that there are in-game management issues with him, and that's been part of the story here with him. But what I would attest is that if you're looking for somebody that can turn around a team that's been dilapidated and can't get out of its own way, he built a solid foundation there in Buffalo. And I know people are going to say, well, he had a quarterback. Yes. At some point, the idea is the Browns find that quarterback, or that they have him already. And with McDermott there, hopefully that allows you to sort of you would pave the way for that. You also got to remember, McDermott got there a year before Josh Allen, and Josh Allen wasn't this Josh Allen for the first several years there. So it was his foundation that allowed Josh Allen to thrive and become Josh Allen.
How do you feel about this, Luke? Do you think that Sean McDermott can be the one to turn this Browns team around? I mean, he would be an incredible get for them, in my opinion, but is he the right man for the job in Cleveland right now?
I don't know what to do with Cleveland, to be honest with you. I kind of think somebody needs to fall on a grenade there and eat a lame duck here, which maybe Sean McDermott is perfect for that. But I guess, and maybe this goes back to the last episode of Locked On NFL, it goes back to why the Bills ultimately made that decision and how they have pinned what I guess you're calling the failure of the Bills to, make it past the divisional round most years. Why that was pinned on him, why it was like time to move on from him. This is not a 3-14 team firing their coach. This is not the Raiders firing Pete Carroll. This is a team that's perennially in the playoffs. That's always a contender firing their head coach. I have so many questions if I'm Cleveland about, okay, what was really going on? Because I feel like we don't know everything.
Yeah. It's the Euro. It's every year. It's the same thing. It's like, what's going on in Cleveland? What's the quarterback situation? Myles Garrett. Is he going to get like, it's just every year it's the same thing. I think McDermott can begin to establish something there. Like, I think he could, but we've also said that about a lot of other guys that have come in there and have flamed out in 1 year, or, like Stefanski went in there and he got to the divisional round with Baker, but then it just took a huge step backwards with the Watson trade and everything that happened. So They have to pick a direction here. It just feels like they're all over the place. And that's what we've been saying about them for years and years and years. And coming up, we'll be talking about Brian Flores. Luke will walk us through the Brian Flores watch, particularly with Pittsburgh, but also what's going on in Minnesota. Then we'll get to the Cardinals a little bit, because that's another franchise that I have some questions about. So stay tuned. Plenty coming up here on Locked On NFL. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode every game day during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boost give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boost make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks and apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So as a FanDuel, an official sports partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. First, the show is brought to you by Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posted on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for this show, I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Moving along, Locked On NFL. Kevin Ostreicher filling in for Tyler Roll and the Madman, and Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings still rocking out with you here talking NFL football. Luke, it's time for Brian Flores watch. Now, Chris Carter and his guest over at Locked On Steelers, because that's an opening that a lot of people are talking about for Brian Flores. Mm-hmm. He and his guests were talking about their opening in particular and how good it actually is. Because everybody's talking about Buffalo and Baltimore right now. It's like, oh, you got the elite quarterbacks and everything is in place, or at least most of the stuff is in place there. But this here from Chris and his guest over at Locked On Steelers, they talked about Pittsburgh's opening and what that is.
Those players and Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, a couple of former MVPs makes those jobs much more attractive than what the Steelers have to offer. But I think Pittsburgh's right there. I mean, the idea that like what happened to Sean McDermott is not going to happen to you, right? I mean, like in Pittsburgh, and obviously, I don't think those jobs are that comparable. I'd much rather coach this Buffalo team right now, but compared to anything else, the longevity that the Steelers have afforded their coaches is definitely significant. And I just think the Steelers franchise is pretty revered in NFL circles.
If you want to be a coach of the Steelers for 2 decades, you can go over there and you can be the head coach of the Steelers for 2 decades. Brian Flores is a name that a lot of people are linking over there. Obviously, the connection in the past of him coaching there. Luke, obviously, you cover the Vikings, and Brian Flores, DC. I mean, what's the latest for you? Do you feel like Flores is a lock to come back to Minnesota? Is he going to leave for another opportunity? And what's the pulse on him within the Vikings fan base right now? Do they want him to stay? Do they want him to go? What's the situation?
Yeah, so everybody in Minnesota is biting their fingernails wanting Flores to stay. We're all very, very scared because Flores in the defense was the only redeemable thing about the 2025 Vikings. If he goes and that becomes a question mark, this immediately becomes a team that could feasibly win 3 games next year. Very spooky. And the Vikings, they've been very public about Flores and how, like, they can't stop him from taking another head coaching job, and they understand that, and they support him in this endeavor. If he goes and takes a job with the Ravens or the Steelers, go and God bless, nobody here is going to be salty about it. But he also his contract is up. I don't know the exact day the contract expires, but he functionally is a free agent. Usually it's like the Super Bowl. So he's got weeks left on his contract. As a DC, which means he would be free to go take a lateral move somewhere else, and the Vikings wouldn't be able to block it like you would if somebody were to just randomly request, insert your DC here to go be their DC. You could say, no, you're not taking that interview. So that's a part of it. The Vikings have been extremely confident, though, and publicly so. Kevin O'Connell said, we're confident that if he leaves, it's for a head coaching job, that he won't leave for a DC job. And so that tells me that there is probably some sort of informal agreement that everybody has this understanding that here's the deal, and we're just not going to put pen to paper until you go take a head coach job. That's what it sounds like that he was trying to say to me. as for Pittsburgh, I very much agree with that sentiment that it's perfect for Flores, because Flores he lost a power struggle in Miami. He did not get fired in the same way Pete Carroll got fired. He got fired because the people with power decided they didn't like him anymore, which is the subject of that lawsuit, by the way, among other things, that he didn't play ball. He didn't obey orders to tank, and he lost his job because of it. And that won't happen to you in Pittsburgh. And the thing about it is, like, yeah, there is a quarterback in place right now in Baltimore, but will that guy always be there? Will Josh Allen always be in Buffalo, right? I mean, these are fixtures for now, but blockbuster trades happen 4 years down the line. Who knows what's going on? But with Pittsburgh, you get enough of a leash where you can build that team in whatever image you want. 5 years from now, you're going to probably have maximum on any given roster 10 of the same players that are on those rosters right now. Things change in the NFL a lot. So Flores is thinking about that because this is his only other chance to get a head coaching gig. You're not going to get 3. And I think he's wise to do that. If he knows this is his last shot, make it one where you're not jumping in with an impatient owner. You're not jumping in Lovie Smith style to some lame duck situation, Lovie Smith in Houston. And I think picking the Steelers, it doesn't matter what's on the Steelers roster right now. Because by the time you need that roster to be good, you will have had years to craft it in whatever image you want, and you'll have the patience to go through that and do it. So I think that it's perfect for both, and I think Flores is perfect for Pittsburgh. You can bring back Blitzburg. I think his defense works with what they have defensively there already. They are used to having, a defensive mind and needing to cycle through offensive coordinators and that whole dance and all that. Like, the ownership works. They already like him. They hired him before. They've already employed Flores during this lawsuit, so that doesn't bug them too much. It is a match made in heaven, which distresses me a lot as a Vikings fan. But I really think that if this doesn't happen, I think both sides are missing the best opportunity they're going to get.
Yeah, I would. It makes a lot of sense. And if I were Pittsburgh, that would be my choice, not Mike McCarthy. Just putting that out there. Now, another head coaching opening that maybe is not as attractive as Baltimore or Buffalo or Pittsburgh. That's the Arizona Cardinals. And Alex Clancy of Locked On Cardinals, he admits to that fact of what Arizona's looking like right now. So we're going to play that, then react.
Everybody who is an Arizona Cardinals fan, an Arizona Cardinals media member, and everything in between knows at this point that the Cardinals have significantly as strong, but have the worst perceived outlook of all the head coaching vacancies. This is going to be tough to be able to lure coordinators who have experience to come coach here next season. Like, all of those things we know, and now we're starting to experience. So
what do you do with Arizona, Luke? Where do they go from here? It feels like they're going to get like the last head coach. Oh no, we don't want any of those guys. All right, fine. I'll just take this Arizona
That's
job,
what Gannon was.
Yep. They're just in a really weird spot right now.
Yeah, it sucks. You need somebody to either be really into the idea of Kyler Murray, or you need to assure somebody that Kyler Murray's existence there is not going to be in their way. That if you hire somebody and they say, nope, I want this kind of quarterback, there's this, I want Arch Manning next year, right? That could be what it is. And I think Arizona, I just don't really see their path to building something right now. I liked what they had going this time last year, where they felt like they were this physical defensive team, and they moved away from a lot of that. They are ultimately an organization rife with indecision, and indecision is the killer. Pick away and go. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if you kind of dart back and forth and never really go that far down a path, you're just kind of going to develop nothing. And that is, I think, Cleveland, I put in that category as well. Vegas, I put in that category as well. All of the Jets, all of these teams that are perennially in the top 10 of the draft and never seem to have anything to show for it. And Arizona's in that world too. Ultimately, I think the Bidwills just have to sell the team because that goes to ownership. There's one through line in all of the last years and years and years of all of this. It's not still Cliff Kingsbury's fault. It's not still Bruce Arians. It's ownership.
Well, that's why building culture is so important, because, why would somebody want to go there who's in a cushy offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator job on a good team? It's like, why would I go to this disaster right now and risk getting fired after a year or two and then be kind of floating around? You need to establish that culture. Arizona has some pieces, but again, you can't just have pieces. You have to have a direction. So lots of crazy news in the NFL. That's going to continue. We'll have you covered here on Locked On NFL. Again, twice per day, the Madman in the morning and the Barbershop in the afternoon. So for Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings, I am Kevin Ostreicher of Locked On Ravens. And we'll be back here, Barbershop in the afternoon, and Tyler in the morning show will be back. So be sure to stay tuned, hit the like and subscribe button in video form, follow along and subscribe in audio form, and I'll see you right back here soon. And we'll see you back here soon on Locked On NFL.